Well, last year, I was all in on Claude Code for building Clockless, which is a legal billing SaaS that I'm building in public. I would also use claude.ai for planning it. It was my stack and it worked really well, until it didn't. A couple of weeks ago, I hit a wall I couldn't get past. I was building a custom MCP server and Opus just could not solve it. Not one attempt, not five. I switched over to Codex, same problem, same context, and it got it done in one shot. That was a wake-up call. So today, I want to walk you through my brand new Bootstrappers dev workflow using Codex 5.4, a desktop app connected to my local environment, AGENTS.md rules, auto commits, DB migrations, and automated browser testing. This is what I'm rolling with as of April 2026. Set the table real quick. For most of the last year, Anthropic's Opus models were the clear leader in coding. If you were serious about building with AI, you were using Claude Code. That was just the truth. But something has recently shifted. Opus 4.6 started picking up rumors. Users were complaining it felt dumbed down, hitting capacity limits, getting worse at things it used to nail. Then Opus 4.7 came out and had its own set of issues. Whether you believe the rumors or not, the perception of dominance started to crack. Meanwhile, OpenAI quietly rolled out GPT 5.4 into Codex with native computer use, a 1 million token context window, and a real focus on agentic coding. And it's good. It's really good, at least right now. And then there's Mythos. You've probably heard the hype. Rumored to be extremely powerful, but it's gate-kept, locked behind enterprise deals with the largest companies on the planet. If you're a solo founder bootstrapping SaaS, Mythos is not in your hands and it might as well not exist. So the question for us as bootstrappers is, what do you actually use right now to build the best product you can with the resources you have? That's what this episode is all about. Here's what pushed me from Opus to Codex. I was building a custom MCP server for Clockless. Nothing crazy, real-world integration work. Opus was my daily driver. I gave it the context, I explained the problem, I gave it the docs, and it just kept missing. It would propose something, I'd run it, it would break, I'd feed the error back, it would propose something almost identical, and we'd go in circles. I've been building with Claude for long enough to know when something's off. This didn't feel like a hard problem. It felt like the model was stuck. So I opened Codex, pasted in the same context, same problem, one shot, done, and it was running. Now, I'm not saying Codex is going to be better forever. I'm saying right now, for this class of problem, it is. And when the tool you pay for can't do the job and a different tool can, the bootstrapper move is obvious. You switch. I'm not loyal to a model. I'm loyal to shipping working code. This leads me to a rule every bootstrapper needs to internalize in the AI era. Keep your eye on how well your model is performing. If it starts to underperform, switch. The AI landscape is still not quite stable. It's not 2015 where you pick AWS and that's your cloud for the next decade. Models get updates, some of those updates are quiet downgrades, some are genuine leaps forward, and the pecking order changes every few months. Opus has been dominant and consistent for a long stretch. I want to be fair about that, but more and more I've been noticing little issues, and then the MCP server moment was the straw. The lesson isn't Codex good, Claude bad. The lesson is don't tie your productivity to one vendor. Test alternatives quarterly at least. Keep a small benchmark of real problems for your own code base. When one model starts failing on stuff it used to handle well, that's your signal to reevaluate. Of course, you could just stay tuned here and check for the updated videos from me and then copy my workflow, so don't forget to subscribe. But because speed is the whole game, if you're 3 months behind because your model got worse and you didn't notice, that's your business on the line. So let me show you what was actually wrong with my old setup, because this part is bigger than just which model I use. My old workflow was that I would plan in claude.ai, have the conversation, work out the design. Then I'd switch over to Claude Code and have it build. Problem was that the two sides weren't always in sync. The planning context in claude.ai was not automatically in Claude Code, so I'd end up re-explaining, copying and pasting, repasting requirements, and doing a ton of double work. Lots of context switching, lots of loss in translation. Sound familiar? If you've been building with AI for any real amount of time, you've lived this experience. Now it's different. I use Codex to plan and to build. And because it's the same agent with the same memory of the project, they're in sync. I write requirements once. The plan and the build come from the same conversation thread. No re-explaining, no loss in translation. That alone has probably easily saved me 5 hours a week. So here's my actual setup. I'm using the Codex desktop app on my MacBook. The app is connected directly to my local dev environment, the actual project directory on my machine. When I ask Codex to build something, it's working in my real code, running my real dev server against my real local database. This matters because there's no upload step, no send the file to the cloud and get a patch back. The agent is working in the same space I would be working in if I were doing it by hand. It sees what I see and it runs what I would run. I let Codex do the building. And another update on my end is I now let it commit the changes for me as well. That saves me time. I was doing that manually before, one commit at a time, and that time adds up. Now Codex commits it and goes with a clean message, and I review the commits afterward instead of babysitting each one. But here's the key line I don't cross. I still control pushing to the repo. Codex commits locally. I push to remote. That push triggers my deployment to the dev environment. So the chain is Codex builds, Codex commits, I push, dev deploys. And from dev to prod, that's still manually gated by me, always. Okay, so how do I keep all of this from going off the rails? The answer is my AGENTS.md file. If you've been around Claude Code, you know about claude.md. This is the same idea for Codex. It's a file on your project root where you tell the agent the rules of the road, what it can do, what it can't do, what conventions to follow, what tools to use, how to handle certain situations. In my agents.md file for Clockless, I tell Codex things like always run tests after a change, use these naming conventions, here are the existing patterns in the code base, make sure you follow them, and critically, things it's not allowed to do. No pushing to remote, no running anything that hits production, database migrations only in dev. That file is your contract with the agent. It's persistent memory and it's a policy document at the same time. Every time Codex starts a task, it's reading those rules. And when I learn a new lesson, like, hey, it broke something because I didn't tell it about this pattern, that lesson gets added to agents.md so it never happens again. This is the difference between vibe coding and context engineering. Context engineering puts the rules in writing. Vibe coding just hopes the model will be able to figure it out. Now let's talk about a feature I didn't think I'd give access to an AI agent just a year ago, and that is database migrations. I now have Codex running them for me automatically, but only in specific places, local and dev, never anywhere near production. Here's the flow. Codex makes a code change that requires a schema update. It generates the migration, it runs the migration against my local database. We test. If the test suite passes, great, the migration gets committed along with the code. If the test fails, we fix the migration first before we even think about pushing. When I push to my remote, the migration runs against dev, and I'm watching. If dev breaks, I roll it back and iterate. And only after dev has been stable and I've manually validated do I consider running that migration against prod. Prod migrations are a human decision always. This is a huge time saver because migrations used to be a thing I'd avoid on a Friday afternoon. Now I'm generating and testing them mid-task. But the guardrail is automated in dev, manual in prod. That part is not negotiable. The last piece, and honestly, this is the one that's changed my workflow the most, and that's automated end-to-end testing via the browser using Playwright's MCP server. End-to-end testing in the browser has always been part of the job that I'd put off. Clicking through every flow after every change, checking that the UI still works, checking that the login still logs in, checking that the form still submits. It's slow, it's boring, and it's exactly the kind of thing that you skip when you're trying to ship fast, which is how you wind up with regressions in prod. So I wired the Playwright MCP server into the Clockless project, and Codex can now drive a real browser automatically. It runs the end-to-end tests after it makes changes. It checks both functionality, does clicking submit actually save that record, and design. Did the layout break on this page? This is huge. It means I can let Codex ship a feature and I know the main flow still works before I even look. It speeds up my dev cycle massively. I'm catching issues within seconds of them existing instead of finding them a week later when a customer emails me. If you're not running automated browser testing as a bootstrapper in 2026, you're leaving both quality and speed on the table. Okay, so here's my complete updated workflow now from start to finish. My Codex desktop app is connected to my local dev environment. I'm using the agents.md file to define what it can and can't do. I give it a task, it plans and it builds in the same thread. It runs DB migrations against my local database when needed. It runs Playwright end-to-end tests in real browser to validate functionality and design. It commits the changes, I review, and then push. Push triggers dev to deploy. Once dev is validated, I manually push to prod. That's the workflow. The same agent is planning and building. I have guardrails in writing. I have automation where it's safe. I have human gates where it matters. This is what I'm rolling with as of April 2026. Now, in 6 months, it may be something different because the model race isn't done. But right now, this is the Bootstrapper's dev stack that's letting me ship Clockless faster than I ever have. If you want help figuring out what you should be building, I've got free tools like my problem finder and idea validator available at bootstrappersparadise.com and have provided links in the description below. Use these tools to save yourself tons of time. If you want to achieve better results even faster, learn more about the private coaching I offer at bootstrappersparadise.com. I'll include a link in the description below to my program as well. Keep an eye on your tools, switch when they stop working so you can keep shipping, and I'll see you in the next one.